The words, "Every woman secretly fears hearing from a man," La Rochefoucauld's dark truth. Before we step into this story's world, tell me in the comments, where are you listening from tonight? Don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell icon, because what's coming next, you won't want to miss. There's a kind of silence more chilling than rage, the silence of a man who's stopped caring. A woman can survive your anger, your jealousy, even your tears, but she cannot survive your indifference. Because indifference whispers the one truth she fears most. You no longer hold power over me. Centuries ago, François de la Rochefoucauld understood this when he wrote, "We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more in imagination than in reality." What does that mean for you, brother? It means her deepest pain isn't born from arguments or heartbreak. It's when you stay, but she feels invisible. In her mind, the questions echo. Am I losing him? Am I no longer enough? Am I fading into the background of his world? That uncertainty cuts deeper than any insult. Every woman builds her identity upon a single foundation. The belief that she is unique. Irreplaceable in beauty, incomparable in presence, unforgettable in charm. Society feeds her this illusion. Her friends nurture it. Even men she's rejected reinforce it, and she believes it. Until she meets the one man who says the unthinkable, "You are not the exception. You are ordinary." Those words detonate in her soul like dynamite, shattering the stage she's been performing on all her life. She realizes she's not the star of the story, just another character in an endless script repeated throughout time. That realization cuts deep, because her ego was built upon the illusion of specialness. La Rochefoucauld once said, "We are all strong enough to bear the misfortunes of others." But what happens when that misfortune is her own? When she realizes she's not extraordinary but replaceable? That is the moment her crown collapses. Listen carefully, brother. Women don't fear your anger. They fear your detachment. They don't fear your criticism. They fear your clarity. They don't fear you leaving. They fear you staying without desire, without dependence, without need. That calm indifference is the mirror they cannot face. Because in that mirror, they see the truth. They no longer control you. When you speak with calm certainty, no venom, no cruelty, and say, "You are like the others," you don't destroy her. You reveal her. You uncover the illusion she's lived under, and in that moment, she's not afraid of you. She's afraid of herself. A woman can handle a man's jealousy. She can turn his anger into validation. She can even twist his apologies into proof of her power. But when you speak words rooted in truth, words that pierce through her vanity, she has no defense. La Rochefoucauld once wrote, "We are never so ridiculous from the habits we have as from those we pretend to have." That line is the dagger. Because beneath her poise, every woman fears one thing: exposure. She fears the moment you see through her act, the exaggerated laugh, the false superiority, the illusion of uniqueness. And when you quietly say, "I've seen this act before," without anger or sarcasm, the truth slices through her mask. She can't laugh it off. It resonates too deeply. She can't argue it away. Because you've spoken the same truth her own subconscious whispers in the dark. You are not unique. You are a reflection. Men, hear this. Women don't crumble when you insult them. They crumble when you unmask them. Because every ego is fragile, but the female ego is built entirely on mirrors, on validation from men, on envy from women, on a world that constantly tells her she's irreplaceable. When you stop being that mirror, when you reflect back not her fantasy, but her ordinariness, her identity begins to fracture. La Rochefoucauld warned, "Hypocrisy is the homage vice pays to virtue." When you expose her hypocrisy, her claim to be loyal while craving attention, her claim to be different while behaving like everyone else, you destroy the false virtue she hides behind. He also wrote, "In jealousy there is more of self-love than of love." And that truth terrifies her. Because when you stop measuring your worth by her approval, her power dissolves. Every test, every argument, every emotional storm she throws at you isn't about love. It's about control. She needs to know you still orbit around her. But when you calmly say, "I don't need you to feel complete," her world tilts. She doesn't fear abandonment. She fears irrelevance. Her identity was built on being the axis of your world. And suddenly you've said, "I am my own orbit, my own center, My own son. That is the line she cannot bear. Understand this, brother. This isn't cruelty. It's not manipulation. It's liberation. Because once you speak that truth, you are free. And paradoxically, that's when she becomes enslaved. Not by you, but by her own panic. She rushes to prove her worth, to rekindle the spark, to rebuild the illusion that she's indispensable. But deep down, she knows the truth. Those who are truly indispensable never need to prove it. Most men never realize. Women test not to destroy you, but to reveal you. They bring chaos not for pain, but to measure your stillness. When you meet her storm with calm eyes and say, "Your storms do not move me," she meets the one thing she secretly prays for, a man who cannot be broken. Yet that very strength terrifies her, because it strips her of power. La Rochefoucauld captured it best. Absence diminishes little passions and increases great ones. The words women fear most, indifference, detachment, truth, are the same words that awaken their deepest desire. Because in losing control, she feels both fear and fascination. Do you see it now, brother? A woman doesn't fear insults. She fears exposure. She doesn't fear you leaving. She fears you staying without need. She doesn't fear weakness. She fears your calm strength. The man who speaks truth as if reading the weather is the man who dismantles her crown forever. La Rochefoucauld wrote, "What makes us like new acquaintances is less the weariness of old ones than the desire to show how far our power extends." Every time she threatens to leave, every time she hints at others, every time she creates distance, it's not love. It's theater. She's testing her power. She wants to see if you'll panic, if you'll chase, if you'll fight to keep her. Because in your reaction, she finds reassurance. But imagine the collapse when you respond not with fear, but with poise. When she says, "Maybe we should see other people," and you calmly reply, "Maybe we should. I'll be fine either way." No anger, no pleading. Just stillness. That's the moment her ego free falls, because she's bet everything on the idea that you're afraid to lose her. And you've just proven fear doesn't live in you. Brother, remember this. The words women fear most are not "I love you" or "I hate you." They are, "I'll be fine without you." He once lived in a world where every dream had a price. A mansion atop the hills, cars that shimmered like molten gold, and people who spoke his name with awe and envy. Yet beneath that mountain of luxury rested a silence he could never escape. Each night, as the city lights dimmed, he sat alone, staring into the void that money could never fill. He had built kingdoms of wealth, but somewhere along the way he'd misplaced himself. The laughter echoing through his lavish dinners was empty. The applause of his investors rang hollow. And one night, when he met his own reflection, he felt a chill. The man in the mirror was a stranger. So he walked away. Not from life, but from illusion. He sold the cars, ended the deals, and gave away nearly everything he possessed. People called him mad. Who abandons everything after reaching the top? They whispered. But he wasn't fleeing from fortune. He was returning to something far greater, peace. In a quiet coastal town, he started anew. No suits, no cameras, no expectations, only the sound of the sea and the rhythm of his breath. He worked with his hands, repairing old boats and teaching children to read. For the first time in years, he wasn't a billionaire. He was simply human. When asked why he traded wealth for simplicity, he smiled and said, "Gold shines bright, but it blinds too." He'd realized that wealth itself isn't the problem. Attachment is. The tighter you cling to what glitters, the further you drift from who you are. One night, a young journalist discovered him near the harbor and asked, "Do you ever miss your old life?" He looked at the stars reflected on the water and replied softly, "I once had everything, yet no peace. Now I have nothing and sleep without fear." She didn't publish the story right away. She said it felt sacred, a truth spoken in a language the modern world no longer understood. Years later, when the story finally surfaced, millions read it not as gossip, but as guidance. Some mocked it. Others called it faith. But those who truly listened heard the quiet lesson that sometimes losing everything is how we finally find ourselves. So when people ask who the richest man alive is, I don't think of those who own the world. I think of those who have mastered themselves. Because true wealth isn't counted in gold or possessions. It's measured in peace. in purpose and in the calm knowing that you no longer need more to feel whole, and maybe. That's the forgotten wisdom the modern world keeps chasing in all the wrong places. He stood there in silence, the kind that doesn't just fill the air, but crawls under the skin. Her eyes searched his face, desperate for something human, remorse, hesitation, even pain. But he offered none, only the calmness of a man who had already made peace with his own cruelty. "I never loved you," he said quietly. It wasn't shouted, it wasn't cruel in sound, but it was in meaning. Those 5 words didn't echo, they cut, and in that moment, she realized something La Rochefoucauld had written centuries ago. Few people know what love really is. Most only love the reflection of themselves in another. That's what it had been all along. He hadn't loved her. He had loved the way she made him feel. Her laughter had been his mirror, her warmth his shelter. But when the mirror cracked, when her light began to fade, he no longer saw himself in her. And so he left. It's strange, isn't it? How love can sound so eternal in the beginning and yet vanish like smoke the moment truth enters the room. She sat there, replaying every touch, every whispered promise, trying to find the exact moment where illusion replaced affection. But truth has no mercy. It doesn't arrive gently. It breaks the door down. And now, all that remained between them was silence, the kind that teaches more than words ever could. She wanted to hate him, but she couldn't, because deep down, she knew he had simply revealed what most people spend a lifetime hiding, that love, in the end, is rarely pure. It's tangled with ego, fear, and the desperate need to feel wanted. We don't fall in love with people. We fall in love with how they make us forget our loneliness. That was his sin, and hers too. But something shifted in her that night. She stopped asking why he said it and started wondering why she needed him not to. Because that's where healing begins. Not when you're loved again, but when you no longer need to be. As dawn broke, she walked to the window. The city was waking up, unaware of the small death that had taken place in her heart. And yet there was beauty in it. Because endings are cruel, yes, but they are also honest. They show you who you really are when there's nothing left to hold on to. She smiled faintly, not out of joy but recognition. For the first time, she understood what La Rochefoucauld truly meant by "we" are more often deceived by vanity than by love. He hadn't betrayed her. He had simply mirrored her own illusion back to her, and maybe that's the burden of truth. It doesn't just free you, it burns you first, she whispered softly to herself. Maybe the words I feared most weren't his, but the truth they carried. Outside, the morning light touched her face, warm, soft, alive. A symbol that even after truth destroys, life continues to build. The heart may break, but the soul learns. Because pain isn't the enemy of love. Illusion is. And so she stepped away from the window. One last tear, one last memory. Not with bitterness, but with a strange kind of peace. She had finally learned that love doesn't end when someone stops loving you. It ends when you stop lying to yourself.